Shh! Quiet, please.
Hello class. Welcome to this week's filmmaking lesson. Before we start, I just want you to know that I downloaded the video called Nkechi Define Your Eyebrows and Advil Pills commercial. So we can do Chakato Anime Kimono Friends 3. Alright, the first one is home video releases. So we had 2019 in home video. Let's look upon the Jungle Book 1967 movie from Walt Disney Studios. Here is the plot in this film. Mowgli, a young orphan boy, is found in a basket in the deep jungles of India by Bagheera, a black panther who promptly takes him to Raksha, a mother wolf who has just had cubs. She and her mate, Rama, raise him along with their own cubs, and after 10 years, Mowgli becomes well acquainted with jungle life and plays with his wolf siblings. Bagheera is pleased with how happy Mowgli now is, but also worries that Mowgli may eventually need to return to his own kind. One night, the wolf pack parents meet at Council Rock, having learned that Shere Khan, a man-eating Bengal tiger, has returned to the pack's part of the jungle. Pack leader Aklan decides that Mowgli can no longer stay with the pack and must be deported from the jungle for his own safety. Bagheera volunteers to escort him to a man village. They leave that very night, but Mowgli is determined to stay in the jungle. He and Bagheera rest in a tree for the night, where Cat, a hungry Indian python, tries to devour Mowgli, but Bagheera intervenes. The next morning, Mowgli tries to join the elephant patrol led by Colonel Hathi and his wife Winifred. Bagheera finds Mowgli, but after a fight decides to leave Mowgli on his own. Mowgli soon meets up with a laid-back, fun-loving bear Baloo, who promises to raise Mowgli himself and never take him back to the man village. Shortly afterwards, a group of monkeys kidnap Mowgli and take him to their leader, King Louie the orangutan. King Louie offers to help Mowgli stay in the jungle if he will tell Louie how to make fire like other humans. However, since he was not raised by humans, Mowgli does not know how to make fire. Bagheera and Baloo arrive to rescue Mowgli, and in the ensuing chaos, King Louie's palace is demolished to rubble. Bagheera speaks to Baloo that night and convinces him that the jungle will never be safe for Mowgli so long as Shere Khan is there. In the morning, Baloo reluctantly explains to Mowgli that the man village is best for the boy, but Mowgli accuses him of breaking his promise and runs away. As Baloo sets off in search of Mowgli, Bagheera rallies the help of Hathi and his patrol. However, Shere Khan himself, who was eavesdropping on Bagheera and Hathi's conversation, is now determined to hunt and kill Mowgli himself. Meanwhile, Mowgli has encountered Gil once again, but thanks to the unwitting intervention of the suspicious Shere Khan, Mowgli escapes. As a storm gathers, a depressed Mowgli encounters a group of friendly vultures who accept Mowgli as a fellow outcast. Shere Khan appears shortly after, scaring off the vultures and confronting Mowgli. Baloo rushes to the rescue and tries to keep Shere Khan away from Mowgli, but is injured. When lightning strikes a nearby tree and sets it ablaze, the vultures swoop in to distract Shere Khan while Mowgli grabs a large flaming branch and ties it to Shere Khan's tail. Terrified of fire, the tiger panics and runs off. Bagheera and Baloo take Mowgli to the edge of the man village, but Mowgli is still hesitant to go there. However, his mind abruptly changes when he is smitten by a beautiful young girl from the village who is coming down by the riverside to fetch water. After noticing Mowgli, she accidentally drops her water pot. Mowgli retrieves it for her and follows her into the man village. After Mowgli shrugs to Baloo and Bagheera as a way of saying that he has made up his mind and chosen to go into the man village, Baloo and Bagheera decide to head home, content that Mowgli is safe and happy with his own kind. Alright. Also today is called A Dog's Way Home. Here is the plot of this film. After Lucas and his girlfriend Olivia, two residents of Denver, Colorado, find a dog in a construction site along with many kittens and a mother cat, they take the dog home to live with Lucas and his mother. He names the dog Bella. Lucas continues to feed the cats at the old house, which puts him in the crosshairs of the man who wants to demolish the house. He even calls the city about the cats who live there, which delays the man Gunter Beckenbauer's demolition. To get revenge, Gunnar arranges for Bella to be declared a pit bull, because Denver has outlawed pit bulls as a dangerous breed. When Bella is eventually captured, Lucas picks her up, pays a fine, and is allowed to take her home. However, he is warned that if Bella is picked up again, she would be put down. To avoid this, Lucas sends Bella to live with Olivia's daughter's son's dog in Farmington, New Mexico, until he and his mother can find another home outside of Denver city limits, where Bella can be safe. However, Bella misses Lucas so much that she leaves Farmington and begins a 400-mile journey home, which will take more than 2 years to complete if she can survive it. On her journey, she befriends a mountain lion cub, and helps rescue a man buried in an avalanche. At each place she goes, she learns that each of her new friends has its own home, and how she must keep moving to get back to her family. Well, this plot needs an improved. So we can't do that. Tomorrow is called Holmes and Watson. Here is the plot in this film. In 1881, Sherlock Holmes meets and befriends John Watson. Years later, Holmes is viewed as a legendary detective. Both he and Watson are to view the trial of Professor James Moriarty, but are temporarily waylaid by a package sent by Moriarty and brought to them by their housekeeper, Mrs. Hudson. Once at the trial, Holmes declares that the man on trial is not Moriarty and is instead someone named Jacob Musgraves, who is incapable of committing the murders due to tremors in his hand caused by excessive masturbation. Despite unsuccessful attempts by Inspector Lestrade to convince Holmes that his deduction is incorrect, Holmes is convinced that Moriarty is currently traveling to the United States. After the trial, the duo travel to Buckingham Palace to attend a surprise party, where they discover a corpse inside of a birthday cake along with a message from Moriarty, stating that Queen Victoria will die in 4 days' time. During the autopsy, Holmes and Watson meet Dr. Grace Hart and the feral Millie. Watson and Holmes become enamored with Grace and Millie, respectively. By the end of the autopsy, Watson declares that the corpse's death is indeterminable, while Holmes believes that the person was poisoned. Furthermore, he believes that the poison came from Gustav Klinger. The pair eventually locate Klinger, who is indeed in league with Moriarty. Before Klinger can reveal anything, he is murdered. Holmes decides that he must seek help from his brother Mycroft, who tells him that the murderer is someone close to him. Holmes mistakenly believes Watson to be the murderer and has him arrested. He comes to regret this decision, causing his emotions to return. Holmes goes to Watson's cell, only to find it empty save for a plate filled with red velvet cake crumbs. Deducing that his housekeeper made the cake and that Watson left the crumbs to send him a message, he tracks Watson and Mrs. Hudson, who is revealed to be Moriarty's daughter, to the Titanic, where the murder of the Queen is to take place. After apologizing to and freeing Watson, they rush to the main room where they discover a bomb, which Watson throws out a window. The bomb lands in Mrs. Hudson's boat, killing her. The pair are congratulated by the Queen, only for Holmes to defer the credit to Watson. The pair reconnect with Grace and Millie, the latter of whom reveals that her feral personality was an act to manipulate men. Each pair shares a kiss before Grace and Millie head out on the Titanic. After returning home, Holmes proudly displays a plaque on their building showing that Watson is a co-detective, finally giving him the recognition he desires. Later, Holmes and Watson confront Moriarty in a bar in the United States. Alright. On Wednesday is called Mri. Here is the plot in this film. Kun is a boy born to an executive mother and an architect father. The family lives in a stepped house in Isagoku, Yokohama that Kun's father designed around a tree, where Kun spends his days playing with the family dog, Yuko, and his beloved toy train sets. When Kun is 4, his sister Mri, Japanese for future, is born, and he is happy at first when his mother returns home with her. But he soon grows jealous when his parents focus all their attention on her, and has to be restrained from hitting her with one of his toy trains. He lashes out first at his mother, and then at his father when he becomes a stay-at-home dad working from home while his mother returns to work. After one such tantrum, Kun stomps off to the house's garden, where he meets a strange man who claims to be the prince of the house. As the man endlessly whines about how he lost all the parents' attention when Kun was born, Kun realizes that the man is actually Yuko turned into a human. Kun even finds Yako's tail on the man. When he removes it and places it on himself, he transforms into a dog morph. Later on, a now calm Kun tells his parents about how he had so much fun running around the house as a dog, and he relays Yako's complaints about how they treat him. Girls' Day rolls around, and the family set up the traditional dolls to wish Mirai good luck. But they neglect to put the dolls away after the holiday ends. Frustrated again with their parents' focus on Mirai, Kun runs back to the garden. This time he meets a middle school-aged girl who claims to be Mirai from the future. She has somehow gone back in time out of concern that every day the dolls are not put away adds 1 year before she can marry. After a lot of bumbling, future Mirai is able to put the dolls away with help from Kun and humanized Yako. Kun's grandmother shows him photos of his mother when she was Kun's age. But he continues to attack his mother by leaving his toys everywhere on the floor. He runs out to the garden again, where he is transported a couple of decades to the past. In town, he runs into a little girl whom he recognizes from the photos as his mother. The girl is angry at her mother for refusing to give her a pet cat. They return to her home, where the little girl says that things would look better all messed up, and then starts dumping toys all over the floor and food all over the table. But then her mother, Kun's grandmother, returns home. Kun is forced out of the house and leaves out the back door, but he overhears his grandmother furiously scolding the little girl, and the girl, his future mother, sobbing hysterically. Kun returns to his own time, and now shows sympathy for his mother, but still continues to complain and whine about every little thing. Kun gets a bike with training wheels for a present, but wants to learn how to ride the bike without them after seeing older kids on bikes at the park. His father helps him as best as he can, but Kun seems not able to keep the bike upright. Back home, Kun runs back to the garden, where he is transported to a workshop in rural Japan many decades ago. A young man with an injured leg introduces Kun to the many horses near his shop. He takes an initially afraid Kun on a ride on one of the horses, and then on his motorcycle. Back in his own time days later, Kun successfully rides his bike using what he learned from his previous rides. Kun's mother shows him more photos, revealing the man to be his great-grandfather, who worked on motorcycles and engines in his youth but who died just recently. Finally, the family decides to set out for a day trip. But Kun once again throws a fit over not being able to wear his favorite yellow pants, and then runs off to hide. When he comes out, he finds his whole family gone. In the garden, he finds a train station, the Isago station, with a train approaching. A boy in his late teens angrily warns him not to board the train, but Kun disobeys him. The train takes Kun to the Tokyo station, but there he panics about being all alone. He finds a lost and found attendant who needs the name of a relative to page for, but Kun realizes that he doesn't even know the names of his own parents. The attendant sends Kun to a dragon-shaped bullet train, telling him that if they can't find anyone to pick him up, he must board that train to take him to Lonely Land, which is hell. He spots baby Mirai about to board the train and rescues her, pleading that they not be sent on this train. At this point Kun suddenly acknowledges that he is Mirai's older brother, and the attendant can now page her. Baby Mirai disappears, and future Mirai shows up to take Kun home by flying through the air. They land in the tree, which houses all the family folklore. Kun sees that his father was too physically weak to ride a bike when he was young, when Yako left his dog mom to become a pet, that his mother stopped liking cats when she saw a stray one kill a bird, the World War II battle that left his great-grandfather's leg injured, and the race he ran to win the heart of Kun's great-grandmother. Kun also sees the future, and discovers that the teenager at the Isago station is future Kun. Back at his own time, Kun decides that he can go on the trip just fine with blue pants, and he is now reconciled with his parents and with his sister. Alright. On Thursday is called On the Basis of Sex. It's the Komodo Dragon and King Cobra film with reptilians. Here is the plot in this film. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a first-year student at Harvard Law School. When her husband Martin, a second-year student, falls ill with cancer, she attends both her classes and his, taking notes and transcribing lectures while caring for Martin and their infant daughter Jane. 2 years later Martin, his cancer in remission, is hired by a firm in New York. Ruth petitions Harvard Law School Dean Griswold to allow her to finish her Harvard Law degree with classes at Columbia Law School in New York, but he insists on following Harvard University policies at the time and denies her request, so she transfers to Columbia. In spite of graduating at the top of her class, she is unable to find a position with a law firm because none of the firms she applies to want to hire a woman. She takes a job as a professor at Rutgers Law School, teaching sex discrimination and the law. In 1970, Martin brings Moritz v. Commissioner, a tax law case to Ruth's attention. Charles Moritz is a man from Denver who had to hire a nurse to help him care for his aging mother so he could continue to work. Moritz was denied a tax deduction for the nursing care because at the time Section 214 of the Internal Revenue Code specifically limited the deduction to a woman, a widower or divorcee, or a husband whose wife is incapacitated or institutionalized. The court ruled that Moritz, a man who had never married, did not qualify for the deduction. Ruth sees in this case an opportunity to begin to challenge the many laws enacted over the years that assume that men will work to provide for the family, and women will stay home and take care of the husband and children. She believes that if she could set a precedent ruling that a man was unfairly discriminated against on the basis of sex, that precedent could be cited in cases challenging laws that discriminate against women, and she believes that an appellate court composed entirely of male judges would find it easier to identify with a male appellant. In the film, Ruth Ginsburg left Harvard when Erwin Griswold as dean of Harvard Law School found that he must refuse her request to complete her final courses at Columbia Law School. Ruth meets with Mel Wolfe of the ACLU to try to enlist their help, but he turns her down. She also meets with activist and civil rights advocate Dorothy Kenyon, who is cold to the idea at first but later meets with Wolfe in his office and convinces him to sign on. Ruth then flies to Denver to meet with Moritz, who agrees to let the Ginsburgs and ACLU represent him pro bono after Ruth convinces him that millions of people could potentially benefit. The Ginsburgs and Wolfe file an appeal of Moritz's denial with the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. Department of Justice Attorney James H. Bosworth asks to be the lead counsel for the defense. He does a computer search to find all of the sections of the U.S. Code that deal with gender. His defense will contend that, if Section 214 is ruled unconstitutional, that will open the door to challenge all of America's gender-based laws. Ruth, having no courtroom experience, does poorly in a moot court, and Wolfe convinces her to let Martin lead off arguing the tax law, with Ruth following up with equal protection arguments. The government offers Moritz a settlement of $1. Ruth makes a counter-proposal. The government will pay Moritz the sum he claimed as a deduction and make a declaration that he did nothing wrong, and also enter into the record that the gender-based portion of Section 214 is unconstitutional. The government declines this proposal because of the constitutionality element. At the oral argument in the Court of Appeals, Martin takes more of their side's allotted time than he had intended. Ruth is nervous but makes several key points and reserves 4 minutes of her time for rebuttal. Bosworth frames his side's argument as defending the American way of life, implying that the Ginsburgs and ACLU want radical social change and maybe Moritz just doesn't want to pay his taxes. In her rebuttal, Ruth is much more confident. She states that societal roles that existed 100 years ago, or even 20 years ago, no longer apply. She does not ask the court to change society, but to keep the law up with social change that has already taken place. To a judge's objection that the Constitution does not contain the word woman, she responds vigorously that neither does it contain the word freedom. 8. Outside the courthouse, judgment being reserved, Wolfe, Moritz and the Ginsburgs celebrate that, win or lose, Ruth has finally found her voice as a lawyer. Titles over the closing scene indicate that the Court of Appeals found unanimously in Moritz's favor. Ruth went on to co-found the Women's Rights Project at the ACLU, which struck down many of the gender-based laws Bosworth identified, and in 1993 the Senate voted 96-3 for her to become an Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court. The final scene shows the real-life Ginsburg walking up the steps of the Supreme Court building. Here is the picture of Ruth was being the former president. All right. On Friday is called Welcome to Marwan. Here is the plot in this film. A World War II warplane piloted by a doll-like figure is hit by enemy fire and forced to ditch. The pilot's shoes are burned in the forced landing and he finds women's shoes, which he wears instead. The pilot is confronted by doll-like German soldiers, who taunt him for wearing women's shoes. The Germans threaten to emasculate him, but are killed by a group of doll-like women who come to the pilot's rescue and protect him. As told in flashback, set in 2000, it's revealed that the doll-like figures are actually modified Barbie dolls photographed by Mark Hogancamp, who has created a model village named Marwan, later renamed Marwankal, to help him cope with his diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder and memory loss from an attack sometime earlier by white supremacist Sikhs, after he unwisely and drunkenly told them about his fetish for wearing women's shoes. Mark fantasizes that the dolls are alive and act out in scenes which he photographs. The dolls correspond to people that he knows in real life, himself as Captain Hoagie, the pilot, female friends as his protectors, and his attackers as German Nazi soldiers. A green-haired doll named Deja Thoughturus is the Belgian witch who prevents Captain Hoagie from becoming too close with any woman, sending the women far into the future. Deja Thoughturus herself represents the pills which Mark takes to relieve his pain, to which he has become addicted. Mark has a court date to make a victim impact statement at the sentencing of the men who attacked him. After being initially reluctant to appear in court and confront his attackers, he comes to the hearing but flees when he imagines the defendants becoming German Nazi soldiers and shooting him. The judge reschedules the sentencing hearing for the same day that Mark's photographs will be shown at a public art gallery. Mark falls in love with a woman named Nicole who moves into the house across the street, and buys a doll which he names Nicole to represent her. The doll Nicole is in love with Captain Hoagie and they get married. In real life, Mark proposes marriage to Nicole, who tells him that she just wants to be his friend. Mark takes this rejection hard and contemplates suicide. Mark imagines Nicole being shot by a Nazi, who in turn is killed by Captain Hoagie and brought back to life, along with other Nazi soldiers, by Deja Thoughturus. Captain Hoagie realizes that Deja Thoughturus is a Nazi spy, and Mark realizes that the pills that he thought were helping him were actually hurting him. Mark pours the pills down the sink and vows to break his addiction to them. Mark goes to the rescheduled sentencing hearing and delivers an inspiring victim impact statement. That evening, Mark attends the exhibition of his photographs and makes a date with his friend Roberta, who is a sales clerk at the hobby store where he is a frequent customer. The film ends with a photograph of the real Mark Hogancamp, who has a successful career as a photographer. Alright. Now we're done reading those home video releases. The second we will do Monkey Pictures and Roman Cow Productions and Donkey Teeth Company shorts called The Jungle Book 1967 concept art. This art was made by Disney animators. What will it meant was that the wolves howling and elephant trunk squeeze and Baloo dancing and some types that are heard in the shorts. You can download this anime from this website and make sure that there will animate to download. Mine does not work on it. So, that's all the shorts we got. The third is called S10 Plus and you can do whatever you want in some sort of funniest video I want to see. That's all I got for today. Let's do some work now.
Alright, now time for the filmmaking lesson. Do some work now.